In a groundbreaking development that's sending shockwaves through Washington and across the country, a federal judge has handed down a ruling that's being called a major victory for Social Security recipients. For millions of Americans who rely on Social Security to survive, this decision could bring long overdue change, new protections, and possibly even financial relief. This is more than just a court case. It's a decisive moment in the fight to protect the integrity and fairness of America's most vital social safety net. Whether you're a retiree, a person with disabilities, or a concerned family member, this ruling could directly impact your life. So stay with us, because today we're diving deep into what this decision means, how we got here, and what's likely to happen next. This is not just legal news. This is personal. This is financial. And this is big. For years now, the Social Security Administration has faced criticism for how it handles payment disputes, overpayment claims, and the appeals process. Countless Americans, particularly seniors, and those living on fixed incomes, have reported receiving sudden notices that they were being overpaid, sometimes by thousands of dollars. These notices often came years after the fact, leaving recipients blindsided and struggling to understand what went wrong. In many cases, their monthly benefits were slashed without clear explanation or any realistic chance to appeal in time. The human toll of these administrative decisions has been devastating. People have lost their homes, skipped medical care, or fallen into debt, all because of errors or confusing procedures they had no control over. It was these kinds of stories that led a group of Social Security recipients to take legal action. With the support of legal aid organizations and advocacy groups, they filed a federal lawsuit against the Social Security Administration, arguing that the agency's practices were not just unfair, they were unconstitutional. The plaintiffs included older Americans, disabled individuals, and veterans who had all faced benefit reductions or suspensions due to alleged overpayments. Their claim was simple yet powerful. The government was violating their rights by cutting off benefits without providing proper notice, transparency, or a meaningful opportunity to challenge the decision. In essence, they said the system was rigged against the very people it was meant to serve. As the case moved through the federal court system, it began to draw more attention from legal experts, lawmakers, and even former Social Security officials. Eventually, it landed in front of a highly respected U.S. district judge known for careful and balanced rulings. Over the course of several weeks, the court heard emotional testimony from the plaintiffs. They spoke of the fear and confusion that came with receiving those dreaded overpayment letters. They described how they were told they owed thousands of dollars with no clear explanation, and how they were often unable to reach a real person at the SSA to ask questions or get help. Alongside these personal accounts, the court also heard expert testimony on constitutional law and public administration. On the other side, attorneys for the Social Security Administration defended their policies, arguing that the agency was operating within legal limits and doing the best it could given its massive workload and limited resources. Then came the ruling, and it was a thunderbolt. In a detailed and strongly worded 72-page opinion, the judge ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, declaring that the Social Security Administration had indeed violated the constitutional rights of beneficiaries. The court found that the agency had failed to provide adequate notice before suspending or reducing payments, and that it did not offer a meaningful opportunity to challenge those decisions in many cases. The judge went even further, stating that the SS's actions had caused unnecessary harm to vulnerable individuals and must be reformed immediately. This wasn't just a symbolic victory. The judge ordered the SSA to change its procedures to ensure clearer communication, better access to appeals, and stronger protections for beneficiaries moving forward. The response to the ruling was swift and emotional. Advocacy groups and legal aid organizations that had supported the case celebrated it as a historic win. For them, this wasn't just a victory in court. It was a validation of what they had been fighting for all along: fairness, transparency, and dignity for those who rely on Social Security. One attorney who worked on the case told reporters, "This is the kind of ruling that restores faith in the system. It tells our clients that they matter, that their rights matter." Across social media, thousands of Americans shared their relief and gratitude. Many posted their own experiences with overpayment notices and confusing SSA correspondence. Some asked whether they might now be eligible for refunds or other forms of relief. The ruling didn't just bring legal change, it brought hope. So, what does this all mean for the millions of Americans currently receiving Social Security benefits? In practical terms, the ruling will force the SSA to change the way it operates, especially in cases involving overpayments and benefit suspensions. First, the agency will now be required to provide more detailed and understandable notices when there's a dispute or an alleged overpayment. No more vague letters with confusing legal language. Second, beneficiaries must be given a real opportunity to appeal decisions, with clear instructions and sufficient time to respond. Third, the court has instructed the SSA to review recent overpayment cases to identify where individuals may have been wrongfully charged or denied their rights. In short, the agency must now prioritize fairness and clarity in how it deals with the public. One of the biggest questions on everyone's mind right now is whether the court's ruling could lead to back payments or forgiveness of debts. While the judge did not explicitly order the SSA to repay all past overpayments, the decision does require the agency to re-examine cases where beneficiaries were not properly notified or given a chance to appeal. That means if you or someone you know had your benefits reduced due to an overpayment claim, and you weren't clearly informed or didn't get a fair shot to contest it, you might be entitled to relief. Legal experts suggest that thousands, potentially even tens of thousands of cases could be eligible for reevaluation. Some beneficiaries may see their debts erased, and others may even receive refunds. Advocacy organizations are encouraging anyone who believes they were treated unfairly to reach out and get legal advice, as this ruling could significantly strengthen their position. Beyond the immediate implications for Social Security, legal scholars say this ruling could have ripple effects throughout the federal government. That's because it sends a strong message about constitutional protections and due process when it comes to public benefits. If the SSA can be held accountable for violating people's rights, then other agencies, such as Medicare, Medicaid, and the Department of Veterans Affairs, could also face similar scrutiny. Experts are already calling this a landmark decision in administrative law. It establishes a precedent that federal agencies must uphold transparency, communicate clearly, and allow individuals a real chance to be heard before taking adverse action. In other words, the days of computer says no might finally be coming to an end. So how is the Social Security Administration responding to this ruling? In an official statement, the agency said it was reviewing the court's decision and considering next steps to ensure compliance. While the statement was cautious and didn't admit fault, insiders suggest the agency is now scrambling to revise its internal procedures. That could include retraining staff, rewriting notice letters, updating appeal guidelines, and improving customer service systems. Some advocates worry the SSA may try to delay these changes or implement them half-heartedly. That's why watchdog groups are pushing for strong congressional oversight to ensure the reforms are real and lasting. Lawmakers from both parties have expressed interest in holding hearings to investigate how the agency allowed these problems to develop in the first place, and what must be done to prevent them in the future. Unsurprisingly, this ruling is also stirring debate on Capitol Hill. Democrats are largely praising the decision, saying it aligns with their long-standing push to protect seniors and vulnerable Americans from bureaucratic overreach. Several progressive lawmakers have already issued statements calling for additional reforms to strengthen Social Security and prevent unjust benefit suspensions. On the other hand, some conservatives are voicing concern about the potential cost of implementing the court's orders. They argue that forgiving overpayments or increasing administrative staff could strain the SS's already limited budget. That sets the stage for a potential political showdown in upcoming budget negotiations. Will Congress support the necessary changes to enforce the ruling? Or will this become another victim of partisan gridlock? Either way, expect to hear a lot more about this case in the months ahead. Now, let's talk about what you can do to protect yourself and your benefits in light of this ruling. First, keep a close eye on any correspondence you receive from the SSA. If you get a notice about an overpayment or a change in your benefits, read it carefully and don't be afraid to ask questions. Remember, you now have stronger legal rights to challenge any decisions you believe are unfair. Second, if you've had your benefits reduced in the past due to an alleged overpayment, consider reaching out to a legal aid organization or advocate. You may be entitled to have that decision reviewed under the new ruling. And finally, stay informed. Changes like this are complex and often unfold over several months. Subscribe to trusted channels, read updates from advocacy groups, and talk to others in your community who may also be affected. At the end of the day, this ruling is more than just a legal decision. It's a moral one. It affirms that Social Security is not just a bureaucratic system or a line item in a budget. It's a lifeline, a promise, a commitment to the dignity of every American who has paid into the system and now depends on it to survive. For too long, that promise has been weakened by red tape, miscommunication, and administrative failure. But now, thanks to the courage of a few individuals who stood up and said enough, the system is being called to account. Justice, in this case, was not swift, but it has arrived. And it's a reminder that even in the face of powerful institutions, the voices of ordinary people can still make a difference. If you found this video informative and empowering, please don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with others who may be affected, and subscribe to our channel for more critical updates on Social Security, Medicare, retirement, and legal rights. Your engagement helps spread the word and keeps this community strong. Have you or someone you know ever received an unfair overpayment notice or faced a confusing SSA process? Drop your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay informed, and always remember, knowledge is power.